that process worked so incredibly well and was just a huge benefit to me. So
people don't care how you get there. They just want the end result.
I was a big believer of the concept already of closed mouths don't get fed. So I had no fear of it, no concern, no issue. That was my main method.
Everybody's built an audience of some sort, also known as a network.
But I love your for that. I'll give you a shot. Right. And I'll never forget that sentence, ever.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another interview. I'm super excited to be here with my friend, Alex Schlinsky. Alex, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah. So what I like about you is, your focus on family and purpose over, growing the business at all costs. But also you've been in this game like longer than most people. And you're one of those people that started really young. So you're young, but like you're a veteran at the same time. So I want to like zoom way out and go back to the very start of your journey, because I think there's a lot of people listening to this that could really benefit from your come up story. And then I want to talk about what you're seeing, because you have your hands and your mind and, consulting in so many agencies right now, the trends that are popping up in 2024, how people can capitalize them, what they should be looking out for, etc. But let's go back. Tell us, when did Alex Schlinsky first get into digital marketing? What did that look like?
Yeah. And first thing before that first comment I appreciate about being like family oriented and prioritizing, like the balance and stuff. And I wrote a book about it. I just want to make sure it's also noted that like my belief is transparency and vulnerability is the bridge to connection and growth. It's a highlight reel, what you're saying. Like that's true that I believe that, but I don't back it up always, right? I often work too late. I often don't spend enough time with my son. I often beat myself up over writing a book about it and not being perfect about it. And I think what it comes down to is a line that I like using quite a bit in consulting and coaching, but just in life in general, in terms of like the camaraderie it feels like to be a human being, let alone an entrepreneur, let alone an agency owner, just like the baseline of we are people, is giving yourself grace, but not a pass, right? So the concept is everyone's so hard on themselves consistently. Everyone is their own worst enemy. Like the person that's inside your head talking ish to you all the time. Like, would I want to be friends with that person? No. So not giving yourself a pass, like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. I could just speak things and not back it up and never back up my word and never back up my beliefs and never eat my own cooking. Well, obviously those things are immoral, inappropriate, not true, but also it doesn't have to be black or white. It can be like pretty shades of gray, and giving yourself grace to learn from it and try to be better is key. And I leverage every opportunity I have in kind of a public speaking sense to share that, both for my own accountability, but also to remind like, that is a highlight reel. That is what I idealized version of Alex Schlinsky, not a every single day version, which I think is a big misconception for anyone following anyone, watching any videos, doing it like this person's doing it perfectly. Newsflash, I'm not, and no one is. So just keep that concept in mind. So I just want to start with that really quick. To go back to where I started. So back when I was in high school, so I was a freshman in 2006. I graduated in 2010, which makes me feel like a dinosaur, but it's not that long ago. When I was in school, I was definitely a big like academic, not just because like I was intelligent, but like because I wanted to work towards achievement, which I think is kind of an underlying requirement of being an entrepreneur, right? Like you have this sense of ambition for achievement, not just ambition for financial success. Obviously, that's going to be a key part of it, but in general, that's not the only thing, right? There was just this sense of achievement that I wanted to have for a future that I was unclear on, which is, pretty much the same high school story for anyone, unless you're like absolutely 100% certain that you want to become an attorney or a doctor. But if you don't know if you want to be either of those two, there's just like a huge amount of track to take both in high school and in college where you're kind of unsure, probably 5 to 8 year period. A lot of people finish college after 8 years of, high school and then college and still have no idea what they want to do. Unfortunately, I was one of those people. But in general, after I finished my junior year of high school, it was pretty evident to me that I was interested in psychology, criminology, and I wanted to kind of merge those two. So I was thinking maybe I'd become a criminal psychologist. And then secondly, maybe become an attorney. So kind of like the mix of either one of those. That was kind of where I was at in the path of my life. Probably was watching a little bit of too much ID Discovery and like, I think like sensationalizing those kind of things, because when you watch it on television, they do such a good job making it like, oh, in 60 minutes, it was all wrapped up, but that's not really how it is in real life. So I did a externship in my before senior year with a neighbor who was an attorney, a personal injury attorney and a criminal defense attorney. And I'll never forget this. I went into his office for the first day of, our work together in the summer. I dressed up all spiffy. I got a new suit. My parents got me a new suit. I remember going to his car. This is kind of a large man. 280-pound man fitting into a really small BMW convertible. His cup, like his cup holder was an ashtray, but I don't mean like he had an ashtray. I mean, he made the cup holder an ashtray, just to paint the picture for you of this kind of person that I was dealing with. I get into the car. He asked me, as we're driving to Miami courthouse, why do you want to be an attorney? And I gave him the answer that I thought, like, 18-year-old Alex, should get. I want to make a difference. I want to be ambitious. I want to help people that are, incorrectly convicted, yada, yada, yada. And his response was, my mission over the next 2 months is to make sure you definitely do not become an attorney. And he spent the next 30-minute drive talking about how crappy it is to be an attorney and how he's felt like his life has been cornered and all this stuff. And in my life at that point, Keaton, I had never been indoctrinated to anything hard knocks lifestyle wise. Everything I was built into was based off of you can accomplish anything you set your mind to. If you work for it, you can achieve it. Very nurturing environment, very little like real life. Life is super hard. This is the challenges. These are the things, even if you do everything correct, you can still feel pitfalled. None of that was really ever shared with me, frankly, ever. And so to get that from someone right off the rip, someone I respected greatly, was extremely eye-opening. And I think a very paradigmal shift for me. From that, it was pretty evident I was going to become an attorney. And for those of you thinking, wow, like how can one conversation change it? I think a lot of times, like one conversation is what changed the trajectory of your life. Keaton knows this, but you might not. I met my wife in high school. What if she didn't go to that school? She moved 4 times before going to that school. So everything would have changed for me. We have a 3-year-old son now. So like consider that like that butterfly effect, right? So it did make a huge impact. But the bigger thing that made an impact on the digital marketing side was Facebook had just come out with business pages. This is before they even came out with advertising, because obviously it was originally a social network for schools, peer-to-peer. And then they realized obviously it can make a lot of money if they build an ad platform. I was not, a future seer, a clairvoyant to know that this would become some massive business opportunity. What did Mark Zuckerberg say to Senator Hatch? Senator, we run ads, right? That was the thing, like whatever, 10 years later. But he said, the attorney told me he thought the Facebook business page would be a big deal in terms of making money. And so he wanted me to post for him every day of my senior year in high school on Facebook. And if it led to cases, he would pay me a little extra and he would pay me $1,000 a month. And so he did. For 12 months, just posting on Facebook. And so I'd send constant contact newsletters once a month, post on Facebook for him. And because Facebook wanted to share the reach locally, it would be like, pages near you that might have an interesting thing. And he started getting cases for free. I know this is like I wish it was the same thing now. You post on a page now, what's your reach? 3? I got 20,000 likes on this page. 3 people saw it. It's like only if you pay, it's pay to play, right? This is even before the boosted post button. Like the boosted post button, I think was 6 months later. And so he started getting cases from it. And then he started recommending me to some of his other attorneys. I went to school at University of Central Florida in Orlando. He recommended me to multiple attorneys. Those attorneys recommended me to multiple attorneys. And by the end of my freshman year in college, so about 24 months after I had started this business, which was never a business, it was always like a side hustle. Like I'm the smartest hustler was kind of my mindset. Never paradigm of entrepreneur, never paradigm of digital marketing agency. I didn't consider any of those things. I just thought I post on social media for attorneys and I make money doing it. That was pretty much it. I didn't put in any effort. Transparently, it's embarrassing, but pretty much zero effort on learning anything entrepreneur skills wise, no effort on like reading sales stuff, no effort on learning about digital marketing, none of it. I just posted on social media and made money, and I was focused on school to become a psychologist. That's what it was. That's what I did. 4 years into it, I was making a good amount of money. I was also spending a stupid amount of money because that's what college students do that have money. Yes.
How many clients did you have at that point?
I think the peak during school was probably like 10 to 12, all paying roughly $1,000 a month. So making some significant money with like pretty much.
Like, was it performance based as well, or were pretty much all of those flat fee?
Pretty much only like the only performance ones was the original attorney Lloyd and then his best friend from University of Florida Law School, Rick, and they would pay me a little bit of extra stipends if they would get performance. But a lot of times it was like gifting. So the attorneys love gifting. If I'm charging them a little bit amount and they're making money. I remember an attorney bought me, I think at the time it was a PS3 because I don't think PS4 was out yet. I had someone buy us tickets to Orlando Magic versus Miami Heat. I had people buy us tickets to Universal Studios and Disney. So a lot of that, a lot of gifting, which then I of course just passed on to my girlfriend at the time, who obviously became my wife. So yeah, that was a great experience. Made a good amount of money. But when I finished college, I still didn't have the paradigm of this would be a business. When I finished college, I was just super burnt out from the concept of college, and the idea of going back to school to become a psychologist licensed was like no chance. And so from that's what I was like, well, this is making money for a while. Like what can I do with this? And then I started looking it up, and I saw masterminds, and I saw Dan Henry, and I saw Sam Ovens, and I saw Dave Rogenmoser. And Dave Rogenmoser really inspired me, the way that he communicated, the way he taught. I was on his webinar. I had no idea what the Russell Brunson like 3-step webinar was. And man, that thing just worked so well. I was like, wow, this is incredible. I'm so enticed. I'm going to pay this guy $1,000 at the end of it. I've never done that before. This is amazing. Good on me, because Dave is a genius. If you guys don't know, he made Jarvis or Use Proof. He's done a bunch of amazing SaaS companies. He's a great guy. He built this mastermind called 6K Success, bought that. It was incredible. But as soon as I went on the first call, I could just tell that there's no way I could be a good student, because I'm just the teacher. That's who I am. It's how I've always been. And, people are asking questions, and I'm like, let me answer. I want to share. I have things to share, as usual. Kind of a talker is the thing. And as soon as that happened, I learned all the things I could to build a better agency, bought a bunch of programs, learned how to do it, invested with my wife into doing it, built an extremely successful agency from 2014 to 2016. And then at the end of 2016 into 2017, we built our first course, Prospecting on Demand. And here we are, 7 years later. Pretty cool how it all ended up panning out. But yeah, it's insane how the last 14, 15 years have been.
Love it. Very cool. So the offer switched eventually from just posting on organic Facebook pages, I assume. I don't know for sure, but you're not still getting them to pay you to do that.
Yeah. So it switched basically as soon as I invested into the mastermind programs, because all of them were more clairvoyant than I was, based off of experience, meaning like at that point already posting reach was down. Ads obviously had started. The big thing back then was Ad Espresso, which was like a tool where if you didn't know how to use the business manager or boosted posts, like Ad Espresso would do it for you. That was like a big thing. And so I started offering Facebook ads to attorneys, which does not really work for MVA. If you get into a car accident, you just don't like go on Facebook and hope to find an attorney's ad. You go on Google. So we started looking up Google, worked with Vendasta, Reach Local, a couple other large providers, Haibu. I'm trying to think if there's any others. Those were kind of like the three main ones. Reach Local worked out extremely well. They were getting great results. The woman, I think I told you this, Keaton, but the woman that I worked with, her name was Margot. She was clearly a Jew, part of my tribe, which is very beneficial for me, because I got to leverage that. Like, hey, you got a lot of my Jewish mom energy. I could use that in my business. We ended up working together, which was highly beneficial, having her on my team and learning how to she does operations. And then, just started selling only Google ads. That was what we ended up doing.
Cool. And pricing wise, what did you price at for the attorneys? And I believe that agency is still running today, right? So talk to us specifically about the agency from when you switched to Google ads till now.
Yeah. So the change of the pricing was, obviously we went from 1,000 for posting. We stopped posting. We did newsletters probably for another 3 or 4 years for most clients, and then just ended up handing it off completely to other agencies, because it just wasn't a moneymaker. It didn't make a difference. It was a huge amount of time suck. As soon as we moved over from Facebook to Google ads, Facebook was a short period. We're talking 3 months. Google was clear that this was the move. This was also pre-Google being ultra expensive in MVA, which now it's just like outrageous. We would charge $2,000 management fee for all of our clients, up to $20,000 of ad spend. So it ended up being like a 10% rate, which is a pretty common thing. Then post 20,000 would be 10%. So if they did 25 grand, it would be 2,500, et cetera. And then we switched that model in 2018 to 5K flat, up to 100 grand. Reason being is no one really ever got past 50,000 anyways. And they didn't, most of the attorneys found it unsavory that we were increasing the price based off of the amount of money they were spending, just strictly based off them not understanding that we're not gouging them. Like, this is what's required in order to put more time in. But I could just see the gap was just not there. And so it just didn't make sense to do it. We still had a bunch of legacy clients on the original payment model, which we kept, but about 80% of the clients now are in there. It's like 22 clients, had the majority of these clients for over a decade, based off of strictly understanding MVA, which happy to dive into if you want. But yeah, it's been, incredible journey. I'm super grateful for it. And yeah, the original attorney sadly passed away from cancer 6 years ago. But I know if he could see what we were doing now, how proud he would be. And he was definitely clairvoyant. He knew that this was going to be a big thing. And I'm very appreciative of it.
Was this the same guy that was convincing you not to become an attorney?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. The cigarette
guy, cigarette man. Yeah. Lloyd, great guy.
Okay. And what was your main prospecting method for all of these attorneys that you closed from not referrals?
So three methods. So first would be referrals, no doubt. Second is a little bit unfair, but it's an unfair advantage that a lot of people can use, especially if you're in a religious community, which I'll share. And then third is audacity prospecting. I'll break down the second first. So in terms of my background, I grew up a Orthodox Jew. I went to shul, which is temple, right, or church for Christians, from my being born until I was 18 years old. And then I became more secular when I went to college. And basically in our temple, it's kind of a stereotype that Jews are like attorneys, doctors, or accountants, but it's kind of a reasonable stereotype. There's some truth to it, I would say. A lot of our temple's shul, so we had like a 300, 400 person family, temple. Might have been people. I might be mixing up families versus people, but regardless, like 300 to 500 people, and a large majority of them were attorneys, a huge amount. And so part of the being like a member of the synagogue is you have like a list and a phone book of all these people. Before I ever knew what a word VA was, like I never understood that. I knew what Google was, and I would literally sit there, search their name, and do it. Also, my dad was a hugely beneficial thing because you got to be in the know in your community. Also, my dad was the president of the temple. So I'm going through the list. I'm like, who's an attorney? Who's an attorney? Who's an attorney? And I would just mark them down, and I would call them straight up. I'm Joshua Schlinsky's son, the president of the shul. Everyone knows who my dad is. I'm calling because I'm running this business. And I used and leveraged multiple cards. And I recommend this to everyone I work with, doing it ethically, but I leverage cards, right? I'm a member of your temple. I'm a young entrepreneur. I'm trying to make this work. I've already worked with Lloyd Mankius. I'm trying to provide for my family. Like all of these things were cards that I would leverage to the point that they can start thinking about me in an emotional human connection sense rather than the dollars and cents sense, right? And that made a massive benefit for me. Now, balding, 32 years old, have a 3-year-old son, been in the business a lot longer. The cards aren't the same anymore, right? The cards aren't the same. So particularly if you're a younger entrepreneur, leverage all the cards, right? A squeaky wheel gets oiled, a closed mouth doesn't get fed, right? Are you going to be the person that is asking the people in the security line at the airport, hey, I'm going to miss my flight. Please, can I get by? Can I get by? Or are you going to be the one that is too meek to say anything? You're going to be stuck behind all these people and you're going to miss your flight on purpose. That has to be the decision you make. And the reality is you're never going to see the people in the security line again. And even if you see the people at temple all the time, they're the ones that's going to feel awkward if they say no to you, not you. And that's the big thing. That was a massive windfall for me and Shira at the beginning of business because I was a big believer of the concept already of closed mouths don't get fed. So I had no fear of it, no concern, no issue. That was my main method. So that's number one. Number two was audacity prospecting. Audacity prospecting is the concept of I'm willing to do something that someone else is not willing to do. I was reading a huge amount of self-help books at that time. I think Tim Ferriss was like my big thing. Like I was reading every book. I think he had 2 books at that time, if I remember. Can't remember exactly. I know obviously 4-Hour Workweek, that was like the OG book for like 99% of people, but I was listening to podcasts like all the time. And I think at the point in which I was already listening to it, he had a lot of podcasts already, a lot with very interesting people. And I would just listen to it over and over and over and get just insight all the time. I think this was before Tools of Titans came out, which is an amazing book. If you haven't checked it out, strongly recommend. It's so fun. I love it. But in general, what I ended up finding is, a lot of people are just not willing to do the harder things. And I'm just a believer of I'm willing to be told no more than they are willing to say it. Now, that's inappropriate in certain contexts, but in business, I think it's totally viable. Like if they're not shutting the door 100%, like don't ever follow up, this is a no forever, etc., I'm going to bust that door down all the time, consistently, over and over. And I still do this today. And it's one of the core values and tenets that I want to be teaching my son, regardless of whatever he wants to do in his life. I just believe in this so much, advocating for yourself. Some people might not know this watching this, but I had open heart surgery 3 years ago, and advocating for yourself in this insane medical environment that we live is very, very, very important. And that was a big bonus, like understanding how to advocate for myself. So circling back to the audacity selling, the main thing people don't want to do is go in person. People think that the thing people don't want to do is cold calling. It's not true. Pretty much everyone does cold calling. They just suck at it or they don't do enough of it. The real thing people don't want to do is go in person and get rejected face to face. I did not care. After school, pretty much every day. Again, this is probably like some storytelling versus like reality because this was like 10 years ago. So your brain kind of like morphs it a bit. So take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but some hyperbole here, but it's still like solid enough. Basically every day, I would go right to the attorney's office. I would pick 5, 6 attorneys, go to their office with donuts and say like, look, I'm here in person. Again, use all the cards I have. If they're Jewish, if their last name is Lemonstein, I'm leveraging that 100%. If their last name was not a Jewish last name, I probably wouldn't be bringing that up, right? I would go there. I would bring donuts. I would say, look, I know you're getting calls. I know you're getting messages, but I'm here. I'm a student at UCF. I'm trying to build this business. I would love the opportunity to communicate with the attorney and see what happens. Most of the time I would get rejected, right? But I still got a lot of clients from it. And it also built a huge amount of courage for me, huge amount. It's easy to say in retrospect because I can't really remember, Keaton, how I felt after the rejections. I wouldn't say I got in my car and I was like, all right, on to the next one. I'm pretty sure I felt deflated many, many days. Saddened, upset, unsure of my path. Am I good enough? All of those things. It's easy to say in retrospect that that's not the case, but I can't really remember, to be honest, because I wasn't a big journaler at that time. But I do remember the wins clearly, and I remember one particular loss. But in general, that process worked so incredibly well and was just a huge benefit to me. So those are two really effective methods still to this day, using your religious community and Audacity sales in person.
Yeah, I love that. And even if you don't have that tight knit religious community, everybody's built an audience of some sort, also known as a network of people that you've built goodwill with your entire life just by existing and being a decent human being. So what would you say when you were doing these cold walk-ins? How many walk-ins to get a meeting? How many meetings to get a close? Obviously 10 years ago, but give us your best guess. Hey
Yeah.
guys, just jumping in here to give you a quick word on our sponsor, High Level, before we get back to the interview. If you don't know already, High Level is the top sales and marketing solution for any business, but particularly agency owners or anybody that needs a software product to resell to their existing customer base. It has everything you need to capture, nurture, and close leads for marketing clients. And the best part is High Level believes in not taxing the agencies on its platform, so you can get unlimited clients for one low flat monthly fee. The best features include a CRM, funnel, website and email builders, course hosting platform, robust marketing automation builder, a consolidated chat stream with WhatsApp, email, SMS, Instagram DMs, and Facebook DMs, reputation management, social media posting, tracking and analytics, and so much more. And as if that wasn't enough, High Level is fully white labeled, meaning that you can take the platform and put your own brand on the desktop and mobile app and resell it to your industry for whatever price you want. Essentially, what High Level has done is brought the bar for starting a software company way lower, so normal people like you and I can help our clients with an amazingly robust software without paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in development costs. I am not kidding when I say hands down, High Level is my favorite software of all time. It has been integral to my success with my agency. It helped me increase my clients' results and retention, and I use it every single day for my own business. And if you sign up for High Level today, not only will you get a 30-day free trial, which is not available on their website, but you'll get all of the bonuses listed at itskeaton.com/mastermind, which gets you support, templates, and courses to kickstart your High Level journey and get those first few clients or scale to your next few clients. If you're already a High Level customer, you can also get all of those bonuses by upgrading to the next highest plan underneath my link. Instructions for that are also at itskeaton.com/mastermind.
Yeah, it's hard to say, honestly. I would say, to my recollection, I probably did this over like a 6-month period pretty religiously because I lived in Orlando, which is the most competitive MVA, motor vehicle accident space in the entire United States, for one obvious reason, which is Disney. If you guys don't know how the MVA space works, basically they make 30% pre-litigation and 40% post-litigation. So pre-litigation means a case was settled. Post-litigation means it was litigated in court, and then they get 40% of that. They don't get paid anything up front. Obviously, they want catastrophic cases. This is why people call it ambulance chasers, people that die that shouldn't have died in a car accident because of a drunk driver or someone at fault, or unfortunately, young people dying. And the reality is, in Disney, there's a much higher likelihood of that happening, young people dying or being paralyzed, etc. It was really the ugliest and nastiest part of the business, but that's part of the business. And so in Orlando, there are literally hundreds of PI attorneys, not like figuratively. I mean, actually, literally, because the amount of demand will never meet the amount of attorneys able to litigate ever. Because in this conversation we've had already, Keaton, there's been like probably 75 accidents easily. And some percentage of those are catastrophic, unfortunately, in nature.
When you say in Disney, like in the theme park?
No, like around the area, right? So if you talk about Orlando, because of Disney World, the majority of people that are getting into car accidents in Orlando have a higher chance of something catastrophic happening because of the younger, population that's there, right? That's the concept. So any city, by the way, you check, like wherever you live in the United States, you do car accident city, guaranteed within the last hour, there will be a news report or an X report, Twitter report for an accident that happened. It is that common in the United States. And particularly in areas with younger population, there's going to always be more personal injury attorneys. And so I would go all the time to try to create these opportunities. And I remember probably, I would say on average, I would think go into 4, get 1 to have a conversation with me. I would say pretty confidently that if I had 1 to have a conversation with me, I'm closing the deal.
Nice.
If I have someone to have a conversation with me, I'm closing it. Is that fair to say now in retrospect? Probably not. So I'd say 50% then to be reasonable. But like if you're there face to face and you've already done all the work to get the gatekeeper, there was a word that an attorney used. I'll never forget this word because people don't use this word. I'm sure you haven't heard this word on any of your podcasts so far. And that word is panache. Panache is a unique and special word. It's like an SAT word. It's an ACT word. It's not something that's used in the lexicon normally. Lexicon's also not one of them. But in general, I remember this attorney telling me, he said, you have some audacity, which is why I kind of built this into audacity sales. He said, no one comes into my office, but I get calls every single day from people much older than you and seemingly much smarter than you, which was a real nice dig at me, seemingly much smarter than you, but I love your panache. And for that, I'll give you a shot. And I'll never forget that sentence ever. I remember it clearly. I remember what he was wearing. I remember what that office smelled like. I remember what I was wearing. I remember the feeling and the sweat that was coming off of me when I left the building. I remember calling my dad and telling him because I was so stoked. And I remember thinking, panache. Interesting.
And that loss that you mentioned, the one particular rejection, is that a story we're sharing?
Yeah, of course. I'm glad that you brought it back. You're a great podcast host, Keaton. So yeah, it's really painful. This is the concept of knowing your audience. So this is a very painful lesson, but it's good to reshare. But yeah, it's embarrassing. That's what I got to say. It's really embarrassing. So the way that I thought Audacity sales worked, I would dress up really nice. I would put on, my nicest clothes. I would wear a suit. Like I would try to look the part. That was kind of like one of these things that I would learn from other attorneys. Because one of my big things was feedback, Keaton. And this is a good value for everyone. Like if you got a no, just ask for feedback as a lesson. People want to help people who want to help themselves. Hey, I get it. It's a no. What can I learn? What would you have done different? And a lot of it was about like my look, the way that I'm coming after it, like all that kind of stuff. And it was really valuable. So I remember I went into this attorney's office and the lady I'm speaking to at the front desk, right behind her desk, just the way that the office was situated, was the attorney's office door, and his door was open and I could see him there less than whatever it is, 100 feet, 50 feet from me. And I'm talking to her and she's not saying that he's not in the office, but that he's busy. And I'm like, sir, like I could see you, like, give me a shot. I got donuts. Give me a shot. Audacity. Like, let's go. And so he looks up, he's like, okay, come in. I'll never forget this. I walk in, has a newspaper, okay, like holding it up on his desk. He's got his feet locked in on the top of his desk. He's wearing like beautiful paisley suit. Like clearly this guy's killing it. And he flips the page. He flips the newspaper down so I could just see half of his face, which was insane. He's like, hold on, I'll be done in a second. I'm just standing there. I didn't know if I should sit. I didn't know if I should stand. I didn't know if I should say anything. I was just there. He flips the page down, says, give me a second. I'll be done. Okay, whatever it was, felt like an eternity. I don't know if it was 5 seconds or 5 hours. Genuinely, I have no idea. Puts the paper down, puts his feet down, looks at me in the face. He says, you got 5 minutes. What's your pitch? Right? I do my spiel really quick. I don't know if it was good or bad or otherwise. And he goes, this, Alex, I like your style. No one ever comes in here. I'm open to working with you, but here's my terms. We're going to work on my terms. Now, I had read a bunch of sales books prior to doing a lot of my Audacity sales from Orrin Clough, Never Split the Difference, and a lot of stuff just because I knew I was naturally gifted, but I also wanted to learn like certain framing techniques and things. And I had just read Never Split the Difference, which is this concept of like, you have to like be confident in your offer and like own the frame, because I didn't have enough experience, Keaton, on negotiation. I just didn't, right? So this is so bad. So he goes, all right, here's how it's going to work. I'm not going to pay you anything other than the management, other than the ad spend, right? So I'm not going to pay you or your team. You're going to do that work for free, which was a triggering word for me. It's like, no, I'm not doing anything for free, right? That was my immediate thought process, but I'm letting him finish. He says, I'm going to pay for the ads. And as soon as I get my first case, okay, from this, as long as the case is under $2,000 in terms of cost per case, right? I will pay double what you asked for, which I think at that time, I believe was $2,500. I can't remember. But basically this also inspired me, I believe, to do the 5K price, because he said he would pay double, like right off the rip. He said, I'll pay double your price for your management and I will commit to 6 months up front if you can do this. Now, what I should have said was, yes, let's do it. I did not do that. Instead, I said, I appreciate that. I just have a quick metaphor for you to see if we're on the same page. If I came in today not as a potential vendor for marketing, right? But I came in today as a prospect, as someone that just got into a car accident, and I said, I want to sign you as my attorney, right? But I don't want to pay you unless I get a result. What would you say to that? And he said, that's exactly how we do business.
The definition of an attorney.
I literally was so stupid also, by the way, because this was not the first attorney I told. I already had worked in this is probably 3 years into it, 4 years into it. I'd worked with a bunch of attorneys. I know this. Like, why did my brain do that? I don't know. And genuinely, I don't remember what happened afterwards. I remember flop sweat. I remember freaking out, heart rate racing. Don't remember anything he said to me. I don't remember anything other than being back in the car, driving back home and thinking, I'm such an idiot. I'm such an idiot. I'm such an idiot. Needless to say, he didn't become a client. And yeah, that was the most embarrassing rejection I've ever had. But it was a good lesson. It was a good lesson.
So from the perspective of running Google ads for like tons of clients in the same area, did you ever feel like there was a conflict of interest there?
No, no, never, never. So this was such good insight. So this was a huge help from my dad and my mom, both who are entrepreneurs. This was a big concern because I would get this objection a lot, like, oh, I want exclusivity and this and that. And then because so much of the opportunity was in the same area, it ultimately would cost me deals. Like I would have people say, well, I already work with this. Well, then why would I work with you? I don't want to work with that mindset. The truth was neither the attorney nor Alex at the time understood supply and demand, like simple basic economics. We were just focused on in pragmatic, like emotional thought process of I want to beat my competition. So when I spoke to my dad about this, I remember this concept of him talking about restaurants. He's like, why is there multiple Mexican restaurants in Hollywood, Florida? It's not because one of them is going to beat out the other and they'll both close, right? They've already been here, both established for 10 years. Why is that the case? And he was saying because the demand, right, is greater than the supply, right? So there's going to be enough people, enough restaurant patrons for both to work. And as soon as I understood that concept, I was able to express that concept. And so I would give them an ulterior motive. Either one, you could pay the amount of accounts that I would have, roughly 3 to 5, right? So I don't work with anyone else. Or you can realize that no vendor you're working with is going to take them out of business. None of them, right? And the reality is, if you hire me as exclusivity, that doesn't mean that I'm somewhat special, that they're not going to be able to hire a Keaton tomorrow, right? And as soon as I did that and then leveraged the point of saying the actual value is if I'm working with other attorneys in this area, right? And as long as they're exclusively provided leads, we're not sharing, right? That was the big thing on the contracts, of course. There's actually a huge benefit of working with one vendor that's already working with someone near you. The reason being is what we optimize for you or for them can also work for you, and we could all have rising tides lifting all the boats. We're not going to get them to close out of business. And as soon as that happened, changed the entire landscape of the business. Of course, I lost deals because of this, because it's still emotional for people, but I convinced a significant amount of attorneys to not think that way. For anyone that's dealing with that experience, that's the consideration. The biggest moral thing that you're talking about is do not offer exclusive leads and then share them. That is immoral, inappropriate, totally not right. I'm not going to sit on a high horse and say I didn't do that. I definitely did that when I was younger because I was stupid. And then I got caught doing that. And then when you get caught, that's when you realize something's bad. When you don't get caught, you're like, I'm so savvy. No, you're not savvy. You're just being an idiot. So anyways, that's just, lessons learned.
Love the come up story. There's a lot I learned about you from this, and it's inspiring to think about the young Alex hustling with the donuts. And it's a lesson that more young people today need to learn because, sitting in your basement with your laptop, like some people, I've students that I just tell, you need to go to networking events. Like that's what you need to do. And then they come back the next week. They're like, I sent more DMs. I'm like, no, did you go to the networking event? Because
no, Keaton, I didn't. It was on Wednesday and I had to pick up my dog and, I made every excuse under the book. And so I didn't do it.
Yeah, it's some social skills that are declining in today's world. So it's getting more and more impressive.
More audacity, baby.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so fast forward to now, you've worked with how many agencies at this point?
Thousands for sure. Like the original course we sold like over 1,500 people into, and then POD as the mentorship program, easily over 1,000. So probably like 2,500 or so. But then also like the non-client like impact from speaking at events and all that kind of stuff, like just thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs.
Okay, so what's the difference you've seen in like the most successful clients that you've ever had and those that kind of struggle?
It's a great question. So I would say two things. One, I'm like a big believer in the concept of like we help winners win faster, not that we are the reason why someone wins. I just think that is totally inappropriate and unfair and a mindset that I really want to make sure I don't portray to anyone like that we're the reasons why someone succeeded. We're the reason why someone succeeded faster.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. I also think there's an indication or a thought process where people are like, this person's a loser and this person's a winner. I think everyone is capable of winning as long as they understand a couple core tenets. Number one is actions over outcomes. Like one of my main things that I do, Keaton, obviously is sales coaching, as you're aware, right? Like that's a big core tenet of my life, of my coaching. I do it in corporate sales consulting. I do sales consulting for my clients. I still do sales myself. I love it. I'm very interested in how the human brain works, decision-making, psychology. I love that stuff, right? But no matter how good I am, and I am very good, no matter how good I am and no matter how good I coach, no matter how good someone is, there's no magic abracadabra model, right? No matter how good the offer is, no matter how good guarantee is, whatever, that someone magically like pays you, right? There just is none. What is understanding the levers you have to pull, like the available levers you have, pulling all of those levers, right? And then from that, did you get the outcome you wanted, right? And sometimes you could do every single thing correctly and the outcome doesn't happen the way you want to. And worse, and this is why entrepreneurs really struggle, is you can also do like a lot of things wrong and it still works out in your favor in the outcomes, right? So the concept is that consistency of understanding the difference between actions over outcomes. And there was a extremely valuable lesson I had with this that I wanted to share that I think would be impactful for everyone. So going back to my jewelry, right? I'm not exactly the most athletic person. It's not really part of our, genetic tribe here in general. So when I was younger, at like 10, 11 years old, I was part of a Little League baseball crew. I was the closer for the baseball team, meaning the last person that pitches. I remember this one game particularly where, I was end of the game, throw a pitch, the guy gets a hit, we lose the game. After the game, usually it's like hot dogs, snow cones, hang out. I remember like storming off the mound, not even taking my cleats off, which was a big thing for my dad. Take your cleats off before the car. I'll always remember that. Just getting into his car. And my dad got the message. He was like, okay, cool. We drive in my dad's car back to my house, 10 minutes. I don't say one word. He doesn't say one word. Go back to my house and I do that like 11-year-old teenager thing that's kind of annoying where you like walk in, you like slam your door to try to get attention, right? My dad comes in. He doesn't like slamming doors. Why are you upset? And now I'm like angry, crying. You know why I'm upset. I wanted to win, etc. And he sat down, tried to slow me down. He said, Alex, I know you wanted to win. What do you think the batter wanted? And it blew my mind. The concept blew my mind. I'm the youngest of 3 brothers. The world in my mind revolved around me. That was a concept. And my parents used to say all the time, like, the world does not revolve around you. Not in a negative way, but just in a way like other people's feelings matter and like experiences matter and how you treat people. Like that was the lesson, right? Not that you don't matter. But in general, it didn't really attach, like it did because of a certain sense of ego, lack of intuition and understanding, prefrontal cortex not fully like formed. I just didn't get it until then. And as soon as he said that, obviously it was logical. Well, he wanted to win too. And so now what we had is 2 results that we both wanted the same result, which means one of us can't get it, right? And so he explained to me, okay, you did it, right? You wanted an outcome. You didn't get it. They got the outcome. Okay, let me ask you the next question. Did you try your best? I said, of course, I always try my best. He said, could you have practiced more? And I said, I don't know. I feel like I practiced a lot. I said, okay, could you have thrown the pitch a little bit different if you had done this lesson prior? I don't know. I tried my best. He said, if you tried your best, you left everything out on the field, right? And the outcome didn't happen, then ultimately that's all you can hang your hat on. Sometimes in life, you will do everything right. You will give it your best. And ultimately the outcome doesn't happen the way you want to. And that is life. And that's okay. And we'll move on. And thankfully in this scenario, it's a baseball game. It doesn't really matter. And when he said that, it really impacted me. And it's something that I've taken with me from this day to now to everyone I coach and work with, particularly young people, which is the concept that it's frustrating, Keaton, when you know you're doing everything right, when you're told to do these things and you do them right, and then the outcome still doesn't happen. And that's because of this concept of locus of control. You don't have control over what someone else does. No matter how good you are at manipulation, at building a better offer, no matter what, there's no way you can force someone to pay you money, right? There's just no way. No matter how good of a con artist you are, no matter how good of an ethical salesperson you are, you cannot force it. It's impossible. But there is one thing you can control, and that is your effort. And that is the actions that you put in. That, to me, unquestionably, is the number one indicator of someone who's going to be successful.
Very cool. Appreciate that. So I've been getting a lot of sales questions recently from the people I work with, beginners, and it usually goes something like this. I've been on a few calls. At the end of the call, they say they're interested and then they tell me to send them something and then, they don't send it. Or I send them the proposal, they never get back to me, right? It's the classic. They're like, why is that? And you're like, this is literally like, could be 15 million things. I'd have to look at the call, without, reviewing all of my student sales calls on this podcast. What are the top 1 to 3 mistakes that you see most people making that leads to that frustrating outcome, especially as a beginner?
So yeah, there's a couple. I mean, first would be lack of confidence. Variable options would be number two. And then third, like focusing too much on features, especially if you're selling something related to high level, or like sharing too much about Facebook ads to the point in which they have to think about it too much. The way I like to like recommend sales is like, how do you create urgency? If your toilet breaks, Keaton, no bad juju on you. Hopefully your toilet doesn't break. If your toilet breaks, right, and you call a plumber, what do you want the plumber to do? Fix the toilet as fast as possible, as inexpensive as possible, and don't let it break again, right? It's the same concept for anyone you're speaking to that wants a marketing vendor. They don't care about Facebook or SEO or Google. They might pretend to care about it, but really they only care about the end result, right? And the more clear you can get on the end result, meaning you don't want it to be just subjective of like, I want to be successful. I want to make more money. I want more cases. I want more jobs. The more clarity you can have on what that means, so it's tangible and beyond reproach, right? I use the like football metaphor consistently. If someone says that they want more, you can't achieve more, because when you give them more, inherently, what do they want?
More.
Okay, well, that's an impossible thing. You can't just keep giving someone more. It's not that there's no actual validity to like, this is a tangible thing that we achieved, right? So it's like in football, if you're you can't score touchdowns because every time you get to the 1 yard line, you're immediately booted back to the 50 and you're like, why can't I score? It's because you don't have clarity. So the more clarity that you have on your prospect, not just like they want more, not just they want 5, what does that do? Why do they want it? How is that going to impact them? 99% of salespeople just don't do this. They're just like, cool, he fits into my offer. Let me make the offer. And then they're like, why did they ask for a proposal? Because they don't even know what they want. Because inherently we just live in a capitalist imperialist world. Nothing wrong with that, but just in general, like the ambition for entrepreneurs and human beings is pretty much the same. It's like grow. There's literally a mantra, like a hustle mantra. If you're not growing, you're dying, which is an insane comment. But in general, that's literally like the paradigmal thought that human beings, not just entrepreneurs, have. And so if you're on a call and you just let the paradigm be, I want to be successful, I want to make more money, I want more jobs, and you don't have actual clarity of what they want, what their real problem is, why, well, then of course they're not going to be able to decide, because you are amongst 1,000 other people that are offering them the same thing. How could they possibly feel comfortable making that decision? So when you simplify options, you don't offer multiple things. It's not, do you want a Snickers or a Twix? It's just, do you need this Snickers, right? Because when you do Snickers or Twix, you might say, well, Alex, okay, that's only 2 options. It's not 2 options. A Snickers has 3 options: yes, no, or maybe. Maybe is veiled as anything that's not a yes or no. Can you send me a proposal? Let me think about it. Let me talk to my partner. Do you have any references I can communicate with? Do you have a case study that I can look at? Is there information online? Can you send me any more information out via email? Anything that's not a yes or no is a maybe, and pretty much 90% of calls end in maybe because there's lack of confidence in framing on a specific thing. If you do Snickers or a Twix as your offer, right? Do you want Google or Facebook, or do you want SEO or social media, right? What you're doing is not giving them 2 options. You're giving them 6. Yes, no, maybe to option 1. Yes, no, maybe to option 2. But here's the real key. The arithmetic, the calculus, pretty much impossible to define, but the killer of decision making, which is compare and contrast. Well, with this offer, with this price and this thing, and I got to think about it, etc. Mm-hmm. If we simplify our options, we express with absolute confidence that we can help them achieve a specific goal that they have for a reason, there's purpose behind it, and you tell them to do that, there's a much higher chance of actually closing the deal versus this kind of antithetical way of selling, which is like anti-selling is what I call it. It's like, Keaton, like, what do you think? Do you want SEO or Google? What do you mean? What does Keaton think? His goal on this call was to talk to an expert. Imagine like going to a doctor and like, well, we could do surgery, or we could do this, or we could do, and some doctors are like that. And guess what? You don't want to work with them. When I had heart surgery, Keaton, I went to 2 different doctors. One of them was kind of like, whatever. And the other one I told, look, I'm a salesperson. I need to be sold on this. And he's like, look, I have a son your age. If I was him, I would recommend that he needs to do the surgery. You should do it with me. I'm really confident this is going to work for you, and you're going to meet your son. My wife was 5 months pregnant when I had my surgery. Which doctor do you think I went with? Pretty obvious, right? So that's the answer. And then I can answer that specific proposal objection. But in general, that's like the concept.
Okay. So I want to push back a little bit because I think a lot of people repeat this thing. Like, people don't care how you get there. They just want the end result. But you alluded to this, that they have no idea what that end result is. And I've worked with a lot of people that definitely care how they get there. Why do people repeat that? And what is the true meaning behind they don't care about the way there? They just want the end result?
Yeah, because in my belief, in terms of business development, people that want to grow, what they care about is how they're portrayed, not in the means in which they get there. They don't care if it's a bicycle or a train or a car, right? They just want to be portrayed appropriately. And the reasons that they indicate on a call that they kind of care, right, is for lack of transparency from the vendors that they're communicating with, meaning there's this feeling of getting on a call with people like Alex or Keaton, and it's like, what are they trying to get one by me? How are they trying to screw me? In what way are they trying to take my money? Because there's lack of clarity on profitability sharing. Huge indicator, by the way. Share profits. Be upfront. You run a for-profit business. You're trying to provide for your family. It's not that hard. They run a for-profit business too. The more comfortable you are sharing that, the easier sales are going to be every single time. Number two, they are literally brainwashed to the concept of understanding, in order for me to run my company effectively, I have to know some baseline marketing methods in order to get there. But the thing is, not everyone is one size fits all, right? Obviously, there's going to be some percentage of people that actually genuinely care, just as much as the plumbing metaphor. But the majority of human beings in decision making, it's the same as the plumbing metaphor. They just want that result. They would perceive to you that they're interested in understanding, right, how that process happens. But as soon as you get to the indication of, if I was able to give you a Harry Potter spell that magically, ethically, legally, compliance-based gave you these jobs and got you the result, would you want that? They're always going to say yes, every single time, right? Yeah. Because that's their responsibility. And so that's basically the model of why people do this. They're brainwashed into the concept of, everyone's trying to screw me, everyone's trying to get one by me, all this is fake, all of it's BS. And because it's a lot of marketer and sales speak, instead of just transparency, the more transparent you are, the more authentic you are, the more confident you are, the more comfortable this person will be to make a decision based on the emotion and the pragmatism. And it needs to be both. You got to marry both. You have to marry both. Pragmatism in terms of this amount of money goes in, this amount of money comes back, and emotional of, I'm going to take care of you, I'm not going to screw you, here's how, here's why, and ultimately this is going to be the best fit for you. Hopefully that clarifies.
No, that's great. That profit sharing thing you've mentioned, I've never heard before. What do you mean by that? How do you just upfront say, these are my costs to run this?
Not upfront, like in the midst of the conversation. So for example, I was at an attorney conference last week with one of my clients, right? And it's the same concept. What do they say, Keaton, when they come to what makes you different, right? It's like, well, nothing makes us different. Like, we could sit here and say something makes us different, but like, it's BS. It's like fake speak. There's nothing that makes you different if you run a marketing agency that does Google ads for attorneys. How many do that? Are some better? Sure. Will the attorney ever know that? No. Will we ever know that? No, because we don't work with the whatever 7,000 other agencies that do this. So how are we going to say that? What do you want us to say, Mr. Attorney? They suck, we're good. Like, is that what you want? What do you want us to say? What is an actual differentiator? Transparency, the amount that you are willing to share. And so what I say is, look, the price per lead is $350. This person I was with does a pay-per-lead model. The price per lead is $350. Just so you know this transparently, right? We're not gouging you on price, okay? We make basically $50 to $75 profit per lead. Our price is basically like $275 to $300. That's how we make a living. That's how we provide for our family, right? Got a 3-year-old. I'm trying to make a living for them. That's how we do it. When that happens, you could see the flashlights open up in their eyes, because every person you talk to is thinking, how is he trying to screw me? How much does it actually cost him, right? But as soon as you tell the transparency, they're like, oh, well, that makes sense, obviously. Yeah, you got to make money. You don't go to a restaurant and buy a $48 steak and be like, well, hopefully they paid $48 for this. No, that's impossible, right? Of course it's going to cost them less. But the willingness to be transparent about those things make people comfortable. And you will see, if you do that on your sales calls, it will make a massive difference, because they're always thinking, how is this guy trying to get one by me? How is he trying to screw me? Because the market is already saturated in terms of pretty much any business you speak to in any industry, right, has already tried to work with a Keaton or an Alex. They've tried. It's very, very, very rare to work with someone as their first, like, popping their, like their virginness in the marketing industry. It's just so rare. It's just so rare. It does happen, but like, what's the percentage of that? If you speak to 100 people, how many of them have never worked or spoken to an attorney, to a marketing agency? 2, 3, like super, super small. So the rest of them all have the same preconceived notion. He's trying to screw me. It's BS. It's the old like car salesman thing, like that's literally what it is. We're just now the new age car salesman selling marketing, slinging marketing services on the side of the road. SEO doesn't work. I tried it with another company. It doesn't work. Keaton, we had someone come into our vendor list. He's like, marketing doesn't work. I tried $1,000. It's crazy. I tried $1,000 on Google ads in Miami and it didn't work. I'm like, Well, one, you worked with an idiot company that said $1,000 is enough. Like literally just that click could be $500. What are we talking about here? Right? It's just transparency that really makes a difference.
Yeah, I really like that. And for anyone listening that doesn't do like per lead, like you could just average out what the average cost per lead is based on your retainer and say something similar like that.
100%. Yeah, you can also always just tell them like, look, like, and to be fair with our management fee, it's, roughly like we make 10 to 15% profit on that fee. That's how we provide for our family and, pay our team fairly. We feel like that's fair. Who's going to say that's not fair? And great news. If someone says it's not fair, you just saved yourself the worst client in the entire planet, right? Congrats. Now you don't have to work with the worst person. Like, no, I want you to make 2% and work slave away at this all day long so that you have to, you're a dog. Like, it's crazy, it's just crazy.
Okay, so there's so much to dive into sales wise that, and I feel like this is one of your massive strengths. So I want to stay on this vein for a little bit longer, but
Sure.
trying to think how I want to ask this. So talk to me about structure. You mentioned a few things as far as the issues that most beginners run into. They're not clarifying enough what the prospect's actual goal is. They're not providing a clear path to get there, potentially, or a clear like outcome within a time frame. But you mentioned a couple other things, and I want to go a little bit deeper into there. But show me how they fit into like the general framework of a call, where the myths, the sales tropes that just get repeated over and over again that aren't actually true. Bust those as you go along, if you could.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I'll give you just a really simple sales framework that is super highly effective and works extremely well for, closing deals. And this is my model, right? The one call close. Basically, the one call close doesn't mean that you failed if you didn't get paid on the first call. Because again, no matter what magic you have, there's no way to guarantee that, right? It's just that you nix, and this is one of those big ones that you're talking about, this trope of like, I'm going to qualify and then demo. It's just asinine, right? When we consider our most valuable asset is our time. It's the most valuable thing we have. People watching this podcast, the time that Keaton is giving, the time that Alex is giving, both of us have young children. We cannot get that time back no matter what we do. This time comes and then it is gone, right? And as someone who, again, had surgery 3 years ago and almost died when he was 29 years old, I take my time extremely seriously. And so if someone is giving you their time, not their credit card, their time, it's significantly more valuable than their credit card. I know your brain is focused on the credit card. I get why. You're trying to build a business and make money, and you can't buy things just with time alone, but I get the concept, right? That time is the most valuable asset we have. So the idea that you would set up your sales conversations in a way that you're going to do a qualification and then a separate demo on a separate day where all these additional variables can come in that are out of your control, right? We were talking about locus of control, is asinine. So my model is we qualify and demo on the same call, or we disqualify if they're not a good fit. Pretty simple, right? So it looks like this in the front end frames, pretty simple stuff, right? Time result frame, how long the call is going to be, and the purpose of the call. Now, is this a mandatory frame? No. The reason that you do it is because you'll get one objection one time, and then you will always do this frame. And that one objection looks like this. It is 3:50, whatever, right? And the call started at 3:30. And you are like, okay, cool, I'm about to get into my demo portion. And then the person says, hey, I got 5 minutes left. Can you get to the gist of it? And then we could schedule more tomorrow. Call is dead. Deal's dead, right? And that's because you didn't frame the amount of time. It sucks when that happens. Everyone will experience it at least once. And then I promise you will never, ever screw up that time frame again. The frame looks something like this: 3, 2, 1. Hey, Keaton, really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for it. We'll chat probably like 45 minutes to an hour. Is that cool with you? Perfect. My goal on the call is just to learn more about what your firm is doing for marketing, how it can help you get to case capacity, and ultimately see if we're a good fit to work together at Sky Social Media. If I feel comfortable that we can help, I'll be more than happy to make an offer to you. If I don't think we can help, I'll just try to point you in the best direction I possibly can and make this call worth your time. Sound good? Cool. Super simple frame on the front end. It's easy. If you forget this, the next frame is important. Mandatory, necessary, got to do it. Find the thesaurus for other words than mandatory, insert all of them right here, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. This is required. You have to do this frame. And that's the why are you on this call frame, okay? If we consider again that time is the most valuable asset that we have, okay? Why are they giving it to us for $0? Why? Why are they giving it to us and not their spouse, not their kids, not their clients, not themselves? Why are they giving it to us? For some reason. Now, here's the scary thing. A lot of people give away their time unintentionally because I was going to say they're stupid. I think that's probably a little too aggressive. I just think a lot of people just are very unintentional with their time in general, and it just is what it is. So when you get to a point where you say 3, 2, 1, look, Keaton, like I said, time's our most valuable asset. I'm super grateful you're giving it to me. I want to make sure I make this call worth your while and deliver for you. What are you hoping for from this call? Why are you giving me this time? So when you reframe the time, right, it helps them think that this is not just a credit card that you're getting, right? But it's actually the time that's the most valuable asset that they're giving you, right? Because a lot of people, when they're on sales calls, kind of like clutch at the pearls of the credit card. Like, I'm not going to give them it. I'm not going to give them I don't make calls. I don't make decisions in one call, right? But what they're doing is giving you already a significantly more valuable thing than their credit card. When we are getting clarity on the why frame, right, we understand now that we're going to have urgency, intention, and desired outcome, right? So how fast they want to move on a decision, what their goal is for the call, and what outcome they want. But in general, the why frame, right, gives you clarity on 3 things, right? Urgency, desired outcome, okay, and ultimately intention. A best prospect would say something along the lines of like, hey, I saw your ad online that you help chiropractors get more patients. I'm really trying to get more patients before Q1 ends because I've been struggling with this for quite some time. And I'm trying to figure out a vendor that can help me do that, right? You get clarity on how fast they want to make a decision, what their ideal outcome is, and what their ideal experience is on this conversation. When you do this well, you'll identify very fast who are the most qualified prospects you have, and also who's probably not really ready to make any sort of decision at all. Now, again, if you get just one of the 3, it's still valuable. If someone says to you, I saw your ad and I just wanted to kind of see what you're all about. Okay, we have some desired intention. We have some desired outcome, some intention, right? But in general, someone that gives you all 3 is a really high qualified prospect. After that prospect process, after the why frame, it's pretty simple. It's just the 4 W's frame, which is just a framework of qualification. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? What's the obstacle holding you back? And what's your urgency, right? So if you ask questions in that theme, ultimately you will end up giving you the frames that you're looking for. Like, hey, can you tell me how many patients you're currently having? What is capacity, right? All the technical difficulties all at once. So then for qualification, it comes down to 4 W's, right? Where are you now? Where do you want to be? What's the obstacle holding you back? And then what's the urgency? These are not questions that you ask directly. You don't say, okay, Keaton, where are you? Okay, Keaton, where do you want to be? They're buckets of questions. Okay, so Keaton, how many patients are you currently seeing on average per month? How many would you like to see? What's the challenge? Why haven't you been able to do that? Have you worked with any marketing companies so far? What things have you tried, right? How fast do you want to go from here to there? Obviously as fast as possible, but for clarity, like what's the purpose, and trying to dive deeper into that, et cetera, as much as you can to get those 4 W's of information. There's a 5th and secret W that I normally don't share, but I'll share it with you, Keaton, and your awesome crew. But I think this is really valuable. This secret W is where they have been. So a lot of people that have achieved a certain summit, right? Life is not just a never-ending summit of additional heights. A lot of times you achieve a summit and then you unfortunately go backwards. That experience for entrepreneurs is extremely painful. Now, majority of your calls will be in the position of a gap. They're currently here and they want to go where they have not been, right? An unknown summit. But the summit for someone that has already been there and they're moving backwards, the urgency is significantly higher. So just getting clarity on, has there been somewhere, have you already achieved this before? Have you already had the success? What was your best month? What happened? Why did we move backwards? What if we got there again? That type of framing and leveraging that increases urgency tenfold. It is so valuable. I very rarely talk about this except with my clients, but leverage it, use it. It will make a huge difference for you to ask that question to your prospects. Okay.
Really cool.
So then after you're done, just recapping the 4 W's, or in this case, if the 5th W makes sense, like where they have been added as well, looks something like this. Okay, so currently you're at 10 patients a month. You want to get to 35 patients a month. Biggest challenge is everything's basically referral based and you haven't been able to figure out a marketing system that works consistently. And you'd like to have that done before Q1 so you can hire another chiropractor so you don't have to do all the work, and you have to get to that number in order to do that, right? Basically, everything you shared with me, I'm super confident I can help you get to 35 patients within this next 90 days period, as long as you're willing to put in the work and effort and see what we do. I need about 15 more minutes of time to show you what we do, and we can talk about how we can work together. Does that sound good? And now we're immediately into demo. Let's talk about the demo, break down your offer, simplify it, one specific results, show some proof, showcase the value of it, show the ROI before the price, and get confirmation they want it before the price. That's how you avoid the double variable, right? So before price, you say, look at the ROI and always do it on a conservative estimate, meaning you're pricing higher. Say I was charging you $5,000 a month. I'm not. Chill. Just say that. If I am, and you do that, and then do the math, right? Then you say, here's why it's a no-brainer. I'm only charging you $2,500 a month. That model works extremely well. It's called strong price anchoring. It's super effective. Shitty price anchoring, I don't know, I haven't cursed the whole time. I did pretty good. Bad price anchoring is unethically telling someone, well, I charge $3,500, but if you decide today, it will be $1,200. That is lazy, bad, garbage, removes trust. Don't do it. So anyways, that's the model. Pretty simple. The framework at the end is tell to sell. If you guys are ending your calls with questions, what do you think? You're just doing lazy. It's just lazy. Try to build some passion into this and care. Like if you really believe in your product and you really believe that it will help someone and you really believe that it's the right fit for them, what's your responsibility? Just tell them. If you're worried about it coming off too aggressive, then your intention is incorrect. Your intention needs to be the desire to support, the desire to help, the desire to make an impact, the desire to really actually get someone the result that they want. And for Keaton, I know you know this, but for anyone that's watching that maybe hasn't had this experience, there's something very special about selling someone, right? Hard selling, if you want to say that. I don't think that's the case, but if that's how you want to say it, hard selling someone, convincing someone to pay you, and then getting them that result. There's something very special about that and very fulfilling about that, just as much as it's very crappy when it doesn't happen, which of course that happens because no one's perfect. Of course we don't get the result every time. It doesn't mean you're a bad person or a bad salesperson. It's just those are the variables outside of our control. But when you get it, there's something so empowering from that. And the more that you do it, the more empowering you're going to become and the more confident you will be in your offer. And I just think this is like the anti-selling model is basically like spreading awareness instead of guiding decisions. Guys, people suck at decision making. They're really bad at it. That's why every single person understands the concept of, hey, babe, what do you want to have for dinner tonight? I don't know. What do you want to have? Why? For nothing. It's literally a nothing thing. Why does everyone do that? Because the amount of decisions you have to make every single day, financial or time-wise, or either, it's incalculable. There's so many, conscious and unconscious. And so now you're asking them a time investment and a financial investment in a siloed conversation that they can't differentiate who Keaton is, who Alex is, who Derek is, who Michelle is, and the million other messages they're getting. How could they possibly make a decision? You guide the decision. It's called priming. By guiding someone with confidence, it increases their thought process to say yes. It doesn't mean you're doing anything unethical unless you're doing it unethically. But this is literally what con artists do. It's not that people are stupid. I think that's such a lazy thing, by the way. People are like, oh, I would never get conned. Very smart people get conned, period. Why? Because people know how to manipulate people. I know how to manipulate people. I just really try very hard to do it ethically as possible. Am I perfect? Definitely not. Am I beyond reproach? Definitely not. Have I done stupid shit in the past? Absolutely. I just try my best moving forward to be the best person I could be and do things the best way with the right intention. But the more you're concerned about, am I coming off aggressive? Am I coming off confident? What you're doing really is just seeding doubt. And when you seed doubt, it's like blood in the water for a shark. It's poison. It kills you, it kills the prospect, and the deal dies. Period. Remember, you do not control the perception of the prospect you're speaking to. The only thing that you control, right, is your intention. It's why, okay, news flash alert, trigger alert, here we go. It's why people can listen to a Donald Trump speech, right? Okay, and it's not edited. We're not playing this game. It's not edited. It's just a speech, right? 10-minute spiel. A huge group of people be like, that was amazing, I loved it. And another huge group of people, that was terrible, I hate him. Yes, of course, there's other variables and factors, but just based off of that speech alone, how is the perception different? Because we're human beings. Everyone perceives things differently. Someone might perceive your confidence as aggressiveness, and someone might perceive your confidence as exactly what they're looking for to pay you. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong, but it has to be all about your intention. Your intention has to come from a place of care, love, desire, belief, passion, authenticity, transparency, and lastly, confidence.
Love it. So the tell to sell frame is, I know you can do this. Here it is. I want you to join.
100%. I want this for you. I know this is going to work. If I fast forward 90 days into the future, you would be running through a brick wall to make this happen. I'm telling you. I believe this wholeheartedly.
Love it. Cool. Alex, where can people find you if they need to get more of this sales goodness?
If you can spell my name, then I just give you mad props. Like, I think that's what it comes down to. If you spell my name online, you'll find me. Alex Schlinsky. I'm on every platform. I post every single day, reels every single day, which, by the way, Keaton, is a complete nightmare. And I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but I do it for you guys, all of you. I have a Facebook group. I got a website, alexschlinsky.com, prospectingondemand.com, all sorts of places. If you search me, you'll find me. Would love to support you any way I can.
Beautiful. And I can 100% vouch for Prospecting on Demand. Was there for a brief period as I was selling my agency. They helped me through that process. And some of the most conscientious and well versed coaches in the industry. So highly recommend. Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Alex.